The expansion of Formula One has been in the news for a few weeks now, with the addition of the Andretti Motorsport team on the cards. What started as a genuine discussion about the pros and cons of a new team is starting to become a war of words. Toto Wolff has been very public in his criticism of Andretti Motorsport's bid, and Mario Andretti's patience has finally cracked. Let's have a look at what is going on with the American team's bid and how Toto has got Mario Andretti so pissed off. The Andretti Motorsport bid to join Formula One is aimed at lining up on the grid in 2024. Even if the team's bid was accepted this year, developing a Formula One car takes longer than a few months. Just creating something drivable can take a year, never mind being competitive with teams that have gained years of experience, data, and analysis. It isn't just the time required to build an F1 car that's a barrier to entry. It is, of course, the money. First of all, you have to take into account the Concord Agreement, the 8th edition of which was signed in 2021. The latest Concord Agreement sets out simple financial requirements for entering an F1 team into the sport. The upfront cost, just for the permission to bring a car to the track, is $200 million. This entry fee then gets split among the 10 teams currently on the grid, meaning each team gets $20 million. That might sound like a lot of money to you and me, but in F1, it really isn't. Think about it. The budget cap for this year is $140 million, meaning that $20 million will only cover the team's expenses for 14.3% of the year. And that doesn't include things like driver salaries and team boss salaries. After you've paid that $200 million, you then have to build a car. Toto Wolff commented on the cost of this in what seemed like a thinly veiled threat to Andretti Motorsport. The Mercedes team boss was asked about Andretti joining the sport and what he thought of their bid. Andretti is a significant name for sure, and the American market is important. Every team that's joining needs to add value. It's not only by paying a $200 million entry fee, but it needs to demonstrate, in my opinion, what it can do for all the other teams and for Formula One and the FIA. Only then the sport will grow. We are the absolute pinnacle. This is a Champions League or the NFL, and redistributing franchises on the go is not how it should be. It's not the intention of F1 and the FIA either. But if a real brand with good people, necessary funding, not only the $200 million, but probably you need more around $1 billion if you want to play in this club straight from the get-go, then why not? We'll come back to his comments about the American market in a second. They're important to the validity of the Andretti bid. The first thing to look at here is that $1 billion price tag he put on entering the sport. Being the manager and part owner of an F1 team means that Wolff probably has a decent idea of how much creating a team costs. The costs of building facilities, hiring staff, designing a car, buying the materials, and then testing it are beyond anything we could estimate. That is, before you realize your first design just doesn't work and you have to redesign it and rebuild it over and over until you have something that is at least semi-competitive. And while you're doing all of that, you're earning exactly nothing in prize money or your share of the Concord Agreement. We'll see if Andretti has an answer for that in a minute. It's worth looking at that American market comment first though. The coverage of the inaugural Miami Grand Prix in 2022 on ABC, the American TV channel, averaged 2.6 million viewers, making it the largest US audience ever for a live F1 telecast. The previous record for a live race telecast was 1.744 million, for the 1995 Brazilian Grand Prix on ESPN. On the Saturday, 953,000 viewers watched qualifying, and Friday's practice drew 398,000 viewers. All 3 days were record breakers for F1. It isn't just the American GPs that are getting more coverage though. The 2021 Formula One season reached an average of 934,000 viewers per race on US sports pay TV network ESPN, an increase of 54% compared to 2020. With the broadcast rights for F1 in America up for sale at the end of the season, F1 wants to make the sport as American-friendly as possible, so they can sell those rights for the largest amount possible. Having an American team and maybe an American driver on that team would definitely help drive interest and the price up. Sure, that team wouldn't feature until at least 2024, but the broadcasting deal will probably last 5 years. Coming back to the cost of entry, how did Michael Andretti respond to Toto's warning about the cost of running an F1 team? The FIA is very open to us and we have fulfilled all the requirements, he insisted. Now we're waiting for them to give us a number what it costs to pay the teams to let us in. They always ask how we want to be competitive. I say, let that be our problem. You don't know our preparations. We don't have to hire any new people. We have absolutely experienced people who have the necessary knowledge. On the financial side, we have credible partners who are aware of the size of the project, Andretti added. We've been planning our program for a long time because it's all we want. We deserve more respect. Michael Andretti certainly seems confident of his team's finances, and he has every reason to be. You need to understand that Andretti Motorsport isn't just another American race car team looking to cash in. They're a global motorsport powerhouse that operates in a number of international racing series. The team have over 20 years of experience winning and have the financial backing of some pretty serious sponsors and investors. Yeah, $1 billion is a huge amount of money, but it is believable they have it to spare. The comments that have really got the Andretti team annoyed, though, are the ones that have put down the team's potential value to the sport. Toto Wolff slammed the American brand's entry chances by saying all teams have invested considerable sums over the last 10 years to get there. If a new team is able to bring us more than it costs, we should look at one, sit down and talk about it. But until now, that proof hasn't been provided, he claimed. Wolff obviously hasn't been impressed by what the Andretti team have offered so far, but Mario Andretti doesn't quite understand where it's coming from. Apparently, in private, Toto isn't the Wolff he is in public. Toto Wolff has spoken very openly about our credibility, he said. However, he speaks to me in a different way. I find the criticism very disrespectful because we've been active in motorsports much longer than he has, the American added. I respect his success so far, but he has no reason to look down on us. You have to give him credit. Despite Toto Wolff coming out publicly to say he doesn't see what Andretti has to offer the sport, he kept his response pretty calm. Of course, slandering a current team boss definitely wouldn't have helped, but I bet he wanted to. Mario Andretti not only owns one of the most successful motorsport brands on the planet, but he also won an F1 Drivers' Championship, so he's within his rights to ask for a little more respect from Toto, whose driving career was pretty unimpressive, and who has only been involved in F1 since buying his way into the Williams team in 2009. That isn't the end of it though. And Toto Wolff is going to look even worse after I tell you this. Adam Stern of Sports Business Journal reported that Andretti has tried reaching out to Toto personally to address his concerns, but the Austrian has been ignoring his calls. If Andretti does make it into the sport, this could pretty quickly turn into a big rivalry. Not everyone is quite as dismissive of Andretti's bid to join the sport. In fact, it seems to be only Toto Wolff that doesn't want the team to join. Responding to the same question that was asked of Wolff, McLaren CEO Zak Brown struck a more positive tone. I agree with Toto. We've got 10 great teams, and an 11th and 12th team need to add value to the sport, began Brown, before going on to support the bid. Obviously, the Andretti name has a huge history in Formula 1 and various forms of motorsport, and I think would add a lot of value, as long as it's a team that helps build the sport, unlike some of the other entries that we've seen over the years that have come and gone in a year or two or three. I think we can't accept a team like that. But a very credible racing team with a credible brand with the right resources, I think is additive to the sport, and that appears to be what Michael has put together. So on that basis, we're supportive. Alpine CEO Laurent Rossi was also supportive of the entry proposed by Andretti, which Mario said had agreed a deal to run engines made by Alpine's parent company Renault. I'm very favourable. I've talked to Michael as well, Rossi added. It goes along with the expansion in the US, and I think that will contribute to the show. An American team will directly generate, I guess, interest in the US, and therefore revenue. Then we need to demonstrate that it's enough to compensate for the dilution that Toto was mentioning. Gut feeling? I think it would, but let's do the job properly and we'll see. What kind of agreement between the current teams, Formula 1 management, and the FIA needs to reach is unknown. The current teams may need to be in unified support of the new team entering, or maybe just a majority of 75% or something like that. No one knows the exact details. But as each week goes by, it seems more and more teams are on board, which can only be good for Andretti Autosport's bid to become F1's 11th team. How do you feel about an 11th team in F1? And is Toto right to put down the Andretti bid in the way he has? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section. Until we see you next time, drive safe and bye-bye.